What's up, guys? So we're here to go over UFC 287, Pereira versus Adesanya 2, which I guess it's actually Pereira versus Adesanya like 4 if you count the kickboxing matches. It's gonna be a pretty good card. We got Burns and Jorge Masvidal in the co-main event. A couple other good fights on this card. Um, so we lost. We lost a fight. Maybe they found an opponent for him. I don't know. I read something the other day saying that Nicholas Motta was out of this fight, but maybe I'm wrong. Uh, Hopefully that fight's still on there because that was one of my big plays on the card. But so UFC San Antonio just happened. We're gonna have a week off this weekend. I'm coming off of a week off. I'm a week ahead of most of the people that make videos, uh, so my week off was last week because I put my videos out earlier. And UFC San Antonio is a pretty good card. A little disappointed in myself because like the last two cards, my picks haven't really been up to par. There's been a lot of stuff I got wrong. Um, my bets on UFC San Antonio. I had a 2-man parlay with Alta Moreno and somebody else, CJ Vergara. It was a plus 180, and that one hit. And then I had a big play on Manel Kopp, and that fight dropped off in the middle of the card, which pissed me off. And so, and then I had a play on Tucker Lutz. That one didn't hit, and so I was kind of mad at that point. So after they announced that the Manel Kopp fight wasn't going to happen, I kind of just got pissed off and put that money on Holly Holm. So, but she was a pretty big favorite, so I didn't win as much money on that. But I was able to come off of the event with a little bit of profit, whereas I basically, with the plus 180 parlay and the Tucker Lutz play, which was like, I don't know, maybe 2.5 or 3 units, those basically canceled each other out. I was down just a little bit after that. And yeah, I was able to save myself with the live betting. And that's what I've been doing the last few times, the last two events. I had to save myself with the live betting. So hopefully this card goes better than that. Uh, but yeah, man, let's get into it. So starting down here at the bottom with Chris Barnett taking on Chase Sherman, and so Chris Barnett is 36 years old. He's 5'9" with a 75-inch reach. He's 28-3 and 2-2 in the UFC. So let's face it, this guy, he's fun to watch. He's pretty acrobatic for a fat guy. He does crazy like taekwondo kicks and stuff you wouldn't think he'd be able to do, from his stature. Um, he's very short for the weight class. He's pretty fast though. Like I said, for a big guy, his cardio isn't very good, but most heavyweights' cardio is not that good. This is a guy that used to weigh in at like over 300 pounds before, in previous, fights with other organizations. I'm a fan of his. He's fun to watch. I do have a hard time picking him to win fights, though. Uh, I mean, he's not going to be beating anybody that's much further up the rankings than any of the guys that he's been fighting so far. I don't think. He got in the UFC pretty late in his career too. So, but I was kind of shocked his last time out he was able to get the win over Jake Collier. He was kind of getting whooped on there, and he kind of turned it around and came back and got the victory. But I definitely feel like this is a winnable fight for him. He's going to be taking on Chase Sherman. He is 33 years old. He is 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. He's 16-11 and 4-10 in the UFC. He's only won one of his last 5 fights. They keep giving Chase fights. He's had all the chances in the world. And they gave him a new contract right after they had cut him because they needed somebody to jump in on short notice against Romanov. He's got good power, but unfortunately, that's about all he's really got going for him. Other than being able to take a punch. He doesn't have really good submission defense or awareness, and he has troubles with the takedown defense. Uh, not that he'll have to worry about that in this fight, I don't think. But I think if Chase came in and was really focused and was in the best shape of his career, he could possibly win this fight. If he would, kind of step up the volume, really put the pressure on Barnett. Um, I think if Chase wins, it would be like a third round finish after Barnett gasses out. I'd honestly like to see Chase get the win, but based on what I've seen, I've got to pick Barnett. Might land one of those crazy kicks or something, or win by decision. I wouldn't put money on this fight, but I am actually really surprised that Chase Sherman is actually a big favorite in this spot. I wanted to look at the line real quick and tell y'all what it is, because not that I would, not that these are guys I would want to put money on, but trying to find that fight. Yeah, so Chase Sherman is a minus 240 favorite in this spot, and I find that kind of crazy considering how things have been going. Chris Barnett's coming off a win, so kind of find that shocking that he would do that. But let's see, yeah, 80% on Tapology are going with Barnett, so it's kind of shocking to me, man, that Chase is such a big favorite in this spot. But I'm gonna be picking Barnett. I'll say he wins by decision because Chase is kind of hard to put away. Maybe he beats up on him the first two rounds and has a bad round or whatever, but he could land one of those crazy kicks and get a knockout. So next up, we got Sam Hughes taking on Jacqueline Amorim. And Sam Page is 30 years old. She's 5'5" with a 64.5-inch reach. She is 7-5 and 2-4 in the UFC. So Sam had a rough start to her UFC career. She lost three in a row. Kind of everybody wrote her off, and was kind of just talking bad about her, especially on all the betting channels and stuff. Everybody was always, ragging on her on there. But she came back with two wins against pretty decent opponents, even though one of them here, what was her name, Estela Nunez. She's a very good striker, and she was putting it on Sam in the first round. And she kind of had cardio issues and kind of gassed out, and then Sam was able to get the takedowns and use her wrestling. And Elise Reed's not really a horrible fighter either, so that two times she was able to use her grappling and you know uh get the wins. So uh you know um she usually takes a pretty good beating in the first round, and then comes back and wears on her opponents, to take over. Her last fight, she lost to Pereira Rodriguez. She got outstruck. She gave up some takedowns, a couple takedowns in that fight. She got up real quick. Um, it's hard to get a read on her sometimes on Sam because she'll look great, like she did in those two fights, and you think she's really going somewhere, and then come out and look horrible the next. It's kind of varies. Kind of it's like that a lot with women's MMA. But I think this is a winnable fight for her. If she gets the takedowns, uses her pressure. She has fought the better competition. She's a UFC veteran, but she can't go out there and run into punches, like she was doing in her last fight. She needs to work on her head movement a little bit. And her cardio is really good. That's one of her best weapons, and that could serve her well in this spot. She's going to be taking on Jacqueline Amorim. She is 27 years old. She's 5'3" with a 67.5-inch reach. She's 6-0, and it's going to be her UFC debut. So she's a good looking girl. She has good submissions. She has a good number of finishes on her record. She'll have a 2.5-inch reach advantage here. I think Sam will probably be the bigger girl here as far as muscle and size. I like her striking. She uses her jab pretty well. She has pretty good takedowns. She's got good top pressure. Keep in mind though that she's looked really great. I have nothing to say about her performances or anything like that, but she hasn't fought really any good competition yet or anybody with a ton of experience. But like I said, she has looked really good. She's, as a good prospect should. She's won all the fights dominantly. I'm really curious just to see how she's going to hold up against tougher competition in the UFC. The story of the year has been all the women's underdogs have been winning. So I'm tempted to just go against the odds and pick Hughes. Really, I've been telling myself, dude, just start picking underdogs on the women's fights, all the time. Just spam bet under women's underdogs, but yeah, I just don't have it in me to do it. When things are pretty clear and they should go away, sometimes they don't. Um, but I mean, yeah, like I said, Hughes has fought the better competition, but I'm going to be picking Jacqueline to get the win by submission. I wouldn't put money on this fight though, because like I said, it every time I think something's for sure with these women fights, it goes the wrong way. So whatever. But next up, we got Michael Chiesa taking on Jean Liang Lee, the Leech. And Michael Chiesa is 35 years old. He's 6'1 with a 75.5 inch reach. He is 16-6 and 11-6 in the UFC. He's on a bad run right now. He got choked out by Vicente Luque, and then he got beaten over 3 rounds by Sean Brady. Um, his takedowns and his jiu-jitsu, that's his strong suit. He's been around forever. He's fought a lot of tough guys. He's a tall guy. He's got a good reach for the weight class. He'll have a 3.5 inch reach advantage here. He has pretty good takedown defense as well, and he's hard to keep down. Uh, it takes a really good grappler to get him down and keep him down. He has pretty good submission defense and awareness. His striking isn't the greatest, but he mainly uses it, enough to get his opponents concentrating on that, so he can try to get his takedowns. Um, he is pretty fast with his combinations on the striking. If he's smart though, he won't stand with Lee. He's going to need to get the takedowns here. If he gets them, I would say he gets the submission. Most likely in this fight. He's going to be taking on the Leech, my buddy Lee. Uh, so he is 35 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. He is 19-8 and 11-6 in the UFC. So, so the Leech got robbed against Daniel Rodriguez his last time out, and I had money on Daniel, and even I thought, that Daniel lost. So, I mean, if that tells you anything, I mean, I don't know if everyone agrees, but I think so. And the Leech is a good striker. He has big power. He's got really good calf kicks. He throws good volume. He counters really well. He has very fast hands. He goes to the body a lot, which is something I like to see. Um, he has a real wide stance. He has good head movement. His weak points are his takedown defense, which has improved a little since the Chimaev fight, and his submission defense is also kind of a problem area for him. But really, that was just against Chimaev. The only time he's been subbed in the UFC, and it was Chimaev, and he's never been knocked out. So Chiesa hasn't been knocked out either. But this is a hard pick for me, honestly, because I'm rooting for the Leech. My gut tells me that the Leech will get the knockout, but my brain and looking at it on paper, Chiesa should be able to get the takedowns and a submission. So I'm going to go with Chiesa by round 2 submission, but I'll be rooting for the Leech for sure. So next up, we got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Joseph Pyfer. So Gerald Meerschaert is 35 years old. He's 6'1 with a 77.5 inch reach. He's 35-15 and 10-7 in the UFC. Gerald is super talented, very talented guy. A while back I thought he may have been on his way out. But he's on a good run right now, and he's beat some tough guys recently. If you look at his record, I mean, even his record as a whole, his whole career. But recently he just beat Bruno Silva, choked him out, lost a decision to Christoph Jocko. And he beat Dustin Stolfus before that. Mahmoud Mordov, that was a tough fight that nobody thought he was going to win. Bartosz Fabinski. He's fought all kinds of tough guys. He's had some good wins and some bad losses. But he's fought a lot of tough competition. Let's just put it that way. But so he often has a a rough start to his fights. He's not the fastest striker in the world. His bread and butter is his jiu-jitsu. He has good grappling, good submissions. He's got 27 wins by submission on his record. He has good cardio. He'll take over in the later rounds of his fights. He's usually a big underdog. He does have very powerful kicks from the southpaw stance, which he usually fights southpaw. But he will wade in, with his chin out there, so he doesn't have the best striking defense. But although he may get rocked, he usually survives. At least lately, he hasn't been getting finished. But some real big power punchers in the past have gave him some problem, but I will say in his last fight, his head movement did look a lot, improved as far as the striking goes. I think he does better when he's laying back and countering rather than pushing forward and trying to lead the dance. He'll need to use his grappling in this fight, I believe, because he's taking on a big power puncher and bodybagz Pyfer over here. So Joseph Pyfer is 26 years old. He is 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Meerschaert's gonna have a 2.5-inch reach advantage here. He's 10-2 and 1-0 in the UFC. So Joe's a heavy hitter for sure, and it's crazy how he went from dropping a fight to Dustin Stolfitz on the Contender Series. I know it was an injury, but to a 3-fight knockout win streak now, and most of his wins are all quick finishes. Usually barely gets into the second round. He has fast hands. He doesn't throw a ton of volume, but he makes them count. He has he has heavy calf kicks. He's got pretty good takedowns, pretty good wrestling. Um, there's a lot of hype on him right now. So breaking it down, what questions do I have about Pyfer? Maybe what does he look like in the third round? How's the cardio going to hold up? He's killing these guys, but they haven't been the best competition. His first fight in the UFC was a pretty easy layup for him because and Amidovsky or whatever his name was, he hasn't won a fight in the UFC, and he's been finished in his last three. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Joe here. He barely took any damage. He got the knockout, so I mean it was a good performance. Just the opponent wasn't really up to par, but so Gerald's definitely fought the better competition. He has better submissions. Joe has better striking and has the power advantage. It's tough because every time I go against Gerald Meerschaert, he wins, and whenever I go with him, he loses. So it's kind of frustrating. It's back and forth with me and him. I really want to pick Gerald here, honestly, and I'm probably going to be flip flopping this fight on some of the big parlays I make or whatever. But you know, um, I think Joe's got enough power to stop Meerschaert, so I'm going to pick Joe. But if this fight goes over 1.5 rounds, be watching the live odds. I'd say Gerald could come on late and get a late submission. If it goes past a round and a half or so, maybe be looking for the live line on that one. Next up, we got Kevin Gastelum taking on Chris Curtis. So Kevin Gastelum is 31 years old. He's 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. He's 17-8 and 11-8 in the UFC. He's only won one of his last six fights. He's a smaller guy for the weight class, and he that used to benefit him a lot back in the day because he was faster than a lot of his opponents. But it's just late into his career now, and he seemed to slow down a bit. I'm a big Kevin Gastelum fan. I've been watching him forever. I would like to see him get the win here. His striking isn't horrible. He's pretty well rounded. I just think that the way Kevin fights will play to Curtis's strengths. He's been in a lot of wars. He's taken a lot of damage in his career, and he's been dealing with a lot of injuries in the past few years. So, you don't really know what he's going to come in looking like in this fight. He's going to be taking on Chris Curtis, the Action Man, 35 years old, 5'10" with a 75.5-inch reach. And these guys are both actually kind of small for the middleweight division. But Chris Curtis is 30-9 and 4-1 in the UFC. Chris is a veteran of the sport. A lot of people that don't pay attention to other organizations out there may not have been familiar with Chris before he came to the UFC. But he's came in. He's made a big splash. He had three knockouts. He beat Joaquin Buckley his last time out, which I found very impressive. He showed how good his chin is, and as well as there's a powerful guy like Buckley couldn't hurt him. And he also showed that his power was superior to the powerful guy in Buckley. So that was a pretty impressive performance. I honestly thought Buckley was going to get the win there. So, if he has any downfalls, it's that he doesn't throw a ton of volume. He's more of a counter striker, so, like, Jack Hermanson, made him follow him and come forward. He can struggle with that. But I'm taking Chris Curtis to win this fight. I'm going to say by round two KO. Next up, we got Steve Garcia. He's 30 years old, 6 foot tall with a 73-inch reach. He is 13-5 and 2-2 in the UFC. So he won his last fight against Chase Hooper, but Chase can't strike whatsoever, and had no head movement. Chase is just strictly a jiu-jitsu guy. He went out there and just ate every punch that Garcia threw. Before that, he got smoked by Machete, and his other win against Charlie Ontiveros, is a guy that never won a fight in the UFC. So, his wins are over guys that aren't very good. But, that being said, he's got good power and pretty good striking. He throws, real fast. He's pretty wild. That's how he gets caught by those snipers that are just, countering and landing those good shots and puts them out like Machete did. Other than the Luis Pena fight, we haven't really, seen much of his ground game in the UFC. Pena was able to out grapple him and get the takedowns, so that seems to be the weak part of his game. And he's taken on Shailen Nuerdanbieke. He's 28 years old. He is 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. So, Garcia's going to have like a 4-inch reach advantage here. So, could help him a little bit. Shailen's 39-10 and 3-1 in the UFC. So his last fight was that weird fight with Derek Minner, but to be fair, regardless of injuries, I think he was going to win that fight anyway. All that crazy stuff with James Krause happened, but he seems to have he seems to have really turned a corner. Like the TJ Brown fight showed us that he looked really good there. He's a powerful guy. He's short and stocky. He's going to be at like I said, 4-inch reach disadvantage here. He does have pretty heavy hands, but he really thrives using his grappling and his takedowns. He's so powerful that he can just get guys down pretty easily, which I think is what he's gonna do here. I think Garcia is gonna rush in, throw wild, and get taken down and dominated for 3 rounds, or he'll catch Garcia running in and finish him. So I'm taking Shailen to win by finish. Um, let's say round 2 finish knockout. So next up is the fight that I've been wondering about because I read somewhere that Nicholas Motta was out of this fight, but it's popped back up on here, so maybe I'm wrong. He's taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. He is 6'3", 25 years old with a 75.5-inch reach. He's 13-4 and 2-1 in the UFC. So I'm really high on this kid. I really like his striking. He's got beautiful Muay Thai. He's really tall and rangy for the weight class. He's really fast. He uses his jab really well. Really hard kicks to all levels, head, body, legs. He counters really well. Fights from both stances well. He switches back and forth a lot, which is always good. Throws guys off, makes him gives him more openings to take advantage of. He pressures guys, throws a tons of volume. He goes to the body with his punches. He's got decent enough takedown defense. What else? He does he does very well mixing up his shots. He will, he'll throw the right hand straight down the middle and follow it up with a left jab. Kind of catches people, off guard. He was doing that to Roosevelt Roberts, throughout that whole fight. But he's very technical. He's got pretty good head movement. I love that spinning wheel kick that he knocked out Roosevelt Roberts with. He'll throw a high kick, and when he misses with it and it comes over, he will come back around with a wheel kick, which, sometimes guys aren't expecting that or aren't prepared for that. So, it could catch guys off guard there as well. He'll have a 5-inch reach advantage here. He's got a pretty good submission game as well. He's got a win by submission in his last fight. His dad was a pro kickboxer. He's been doing this since he was, at a young age. He's got 9 wins by knockout on his record. I'm really high on this guy, and I've been waiting for him to fight for a while. It's been a while since we've seen him. And he's going to be taking on Nicholas Motta. He is 30 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach. He's 13-4 and 1-1 in the UFC. So Motta is pretty good. He had a lot of hype on him coming into the UFC, and it was kind of crushed by Jim Miller when Jim knocked him out. Ullman was expecting that. He's got good boxing. He's a hard hitter. He's got good calf kicks. He's coming off a knockout win over Cameron Van Camp. I think Cameron's cut from the UFC now, but Cameron was also a tall guy for the weight class like Ignacio, but he's nowhere near as talented of a striker as Ignacio. Cameron was leaving his chin right up in the air, to get hit, backing away with his hands down. you're not going to see Ignacio making mistakes like that. I think Motta is, a good talented guy, but I think Ignacio will have the striking advantage here. I think he'll use his kicks to keep Motta back and use his reach advantage. I'm picking Ignacio Bahamondes to win by late knockout. Because Motta's been knocked out 3 times in his career already, so that's the way I'm going to be going with that. Hopefully, this fight doesn't drop off. I gotta let me make sure that my bet's still on here because yeah, the fight's still up. Yeah, I gotta play on Bahamondes in this spot. I'll go over it with you at the end of this. Uh, Next up, we got Michelle Waterson Gomez taking on Luna Pinheiro, and Michelle uh, Michelle Gomez is 37 years old. She's 5'3" with a 62-inch reach. She's 18-10 and 6-6 in the UFC. So she's a good looking woman. I think that's why the UFC are keeping her around, giving her giving her all these shots. She's only won one of her last 5 fights. She has a karate background. One thing I noticed looking at her career in the UFC, she hasn't really beat anybody that jumps out at me as being really good, top of the line. Other than like Angela Hill, and that was a really close fight that she could have lost. I'm an Angela Hill fan, so in my mind she lost. But to be fair, all her losses are against some of the best people in the division. So it's whatever. There's two sides of that coin. So she has fought the way better competition of these two, and we haven't seen much of her opponent to really know if her opponent has the advantage anywhere. But I would say her opponent might have the judo advantage for sure from what we've seen. But so she's going to be taking on Luana Pinheiro. She is 29 years old, 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. Their reach is dead even. She's 10-1 and 2-0 in the UFC. This is a big jump up in competition for her. She's got a judo background. Her first win in the UFC was stopped because her opponent hit her with an illegal up kick. So not really a win, but she was dominantly winning that fight. So whatever, she was probably going to win anyway. And her next win was over Sam Hughes, so not really anything impressive there. But she has looked good on the regional scene. She has good judo throws, good takedowns. She throws very wild at times with her striking. She's pretty talented, fast hands. I've been telling myself, like I said, just to bet the women's underdogs, but it doesn't matter what I do. I tend to always get those wrongs, the women's fights wrong. But uh, it just drives me crazy because those just I want to pick all these cards perfect, and it's usually the women's fights that throw me off. And I could study these fights so hard and just know, and still I end up getting it wrong. But so this has the recipe for that for some of the other fights that we've seen lately. That she has a girl comes in with a good record, but not against the best of competition. Comes in against a UFC veteran, and the new girl's a big favorite. But and then the veteran schools them, whatever. But I'm gonna be taking Pinheiro. I think I think her grappling will prevail here. I think she'll be getting the takedowns and a lot of control time, and she'll win that way. Next up, we got Cynthia Calvillo taking on Lupita Godinez. Cynthia Calvillo is 35 years old, 5'4" with a 64-inch reach. She's 9-5-1 and 6-5 in the UFC. She's been around a long time. She has a couple of good wins on her record. She's on a bad run right now. She's lost 4 in a row, but she's been taking on some of the best competition in the division. Her record doesn't really do her justice, honestly. It's kind of like Angela Hill. She got a lot of losses on her record, but she's got a lot of split decisions against very tough competition. Uh, let's look at some of the competition she's fought real quick. Yeah, I guess the Nina Nunez fight wasn't such a good look, but she fought Andrea Lee, Jessica Andrade, Caitlin Chukagian, Jessica I, uh, Courtney Casey, Carla Esparza, Joanne Wood. Back when Joanne Wood was on top of the division, got a win over Gillian Robinson, Montana De La Rosa. These are all pretty good fighters. She's had some good wins. Uh, so This is going to be her second run at strawweight, I believe. It's never a good look to see a veteran going back down a weight class late in their career. But she will be the bigger girl. She have the height and reach advantage. Here she'll have a 3-inch reach advantage. She's gonna be 2 inches taller. She's coming down from another weight class, so she's gonna be the bigger girl. Um, so we'll see how it plays out, how it goes for her. And she's taking on Lupina Godinez. She is 29 years old, 5'2", with a 61-inch reach. She's 8-3 and 3-3 in the UFC. So she is talented. A lot of people are high on her. Her best win was over Loma Lukbumi. She's lost some fights to some greasy veterans. Angie Hill put a beating on her last time out, and Godinez was a big favorite in that spot. But she also missed weight by 3 pounds last time out, so keep an eye on that. If she has trouble making weight, definitely lean more towards Calvillo, even if you're already going, with Calvillo. But she's pretty well rounded. You know, basically, here's the deal. I want to pick Calvillo here, but I'm gonna watch the weigh-ins. If Calvillo struggles with the weight, I'll switch my pick. But I think a veteran like Calvillo, the bigger girl, can cause Godinez some problems here. Uh, and upset the big odds. I'm sure Godinez is going to be a big favorite. But I'm going to take Calvillo to win by decision, unless she has trouble making the weight. And then Godinez might have trouble making the weight as well. So maybe you just have two worn out girls in the third round. So next up, we got Kevin Holland taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Kevin Holland is 30 years old, 6'3", with an 81-inch reach. He is 23-9 and 10-6 in the UFC. So I'm a Holland fan. He's fighting out of Fort Worth, Texas. I got to be a Holland fan. You know, uh, he trains at Travis Luter MMA. I know right where that's at. He had a decent run at middleweight. Um, eventually struggled with the wrestling. Since he was kind of undersized for the weight class. He dropped down to welterweight. And his takedown defense has looked a lot better since then, except for the Chimaev fight. But Chimaev takes everybody down, so no shame there. He's a good striker. He's long, rangy for the weight class. He's got pretty good power. You know, honestly, he should have used some grappling in his last fight because nobody should try and have a striking match with Wonder Boy. You're not going to win. He has 12 KOs on his record. He has pretty good jiu-jitsu as well. Not the best takedowns, but he can use jiu-jitsu well when it's on the ground. Um, I have been a little worried about his mindset, because he's been talking about retirement a couple times, after the Chimaev fight, and I think even after the Wonder Boy fight, he had mentioned it. But this fight will be more his style of fight. Santiago likes to strike, and I think this is a winnable fight for Holland for sure. He's going to be taking on Ponzinibbio. He is 36 years old, 6 foot tall, with a 73-inch reach. He's 29-6 and 11-5 in the UFC. Santiago's a good striker. He's well rounded. He has good calf kicks. He has big power. Um, we saw that in his last fight. Which his last fight worried me because he was losing that fight badly to Alex Morono before he got a KO. In the third round, and that's what worries me. The Ponzinibbio of old would crush Morono for sure, and he just hasn't quite looked the same since all that timeout he had a few years back. He came back and immediately got KO'd by the leech, and he if he tried to use his takedowns in this fight, he might have a better chance against Holland. Holland's gonna have an 8-inch reach advantage here. I think Holland will fight long and outstrike Santiago and win a decision, but he could get a knockout. So I want to pick Kevin Holland by decision to get the win here. But I don't like the crazy high odds on it. I think it should be a little bit closer than what it is. Next up, we got Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Christian Rodriguez. Raul Rosa Jr. is 18 years old, 5'9", with a 67-inch reach. He's 7-0, and he is 1-0 in the UFC. He's a young kid. He's got a lot of hype right now. He's a pretty skilled grappler. He's got good submissions. Sometimes I feel like it's kind of all being blown out of proportion. He's looked really good, but hasn't really fought anybody good. Jay Pereira is 0-3 in the UFC, so take that for what you will. I'm not downplaying his skills. He does have really good jiu-jitsu and pretty good grappling, good takedowns. I just want to see more before I totally ride the hype train and the big numbers on the odds and all that stuff. But he must have a pretty strong grip because rewatching that Perrin fight, the choke wasn't even under the chin. So I'm confused as to whether he's got a super strong grip or if Perrin just gave up, whatever. But he's going to be taking on Christian Rodriguez. He is 25 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. He's 8-1 and 1-1 in the UFC. Um, this is a guy that had a good bit of hype as well whenever he came in. He made his debut up a weight class against Jonathan Pierce, which he didn't really get destroyed in that fight. He was a little undersized. Got out muscled. He looked really good in his next fight and won by anaconda choke. Of course, that opponent wasn't all that good either. It was another guy making his UFC debut, so whatever. But he has good striking. I think he'll have the striking advantage in this fight, and he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. I think Rosas will have the better jujitsu, and I'm kind of torn on this fight. Because like everything tells me I should, it should be easy, and I should just agree with everyone and say Rosas by sub. But I honestly want to pick Rodriguez, and I don't really know why. I mean, I'm kind of just leaning towards Rodriguez, but maybe y'all should not go with my pick on this one and go with the Rosa submission route. But for some reason, I want to pick Christian Rodriguez, so I'm going to pick him. Something in my gut's telling me to pick him, so I'm going to. I'll probably get proved wrong, and if he wins this fight, Christian Rodriguez is a lot better fighter than Jay Perrin. If Raul wins this fight, then I'll jump on him with everybody else, I guess. But kind of torn on it, man. I could definitely see the route, that he gets the submission, that he can win this fight. Um, for some reason, my gut just wants me to pick Christian Rodriguez, so I'm going to pick him. Next up, we got Rob Font taking on Adrian Yanez. I've been looking forward to this fight for a while. I talked about it, a few months back when I first started the channel. So Rob Font is 35 years old. He is 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. He's 19-6 and 9-5 in the UFC. So Rob's been around a while. He's fought all the top guys in the division. He's got really slick boxing, pretty good takedown defense. He throws out a lot of volume. Um, he's taking quite a bit of damage, in his last two fights, especially the Marlon Vera fight. He did land the numbers, but he just got dropped and busted up in every round badly. But he's had a year off, so plenty of recovery time. I think he'll put out the more volume in this fight. More so than Yanez. But he would be smart to try and mix in some grappling in this match. He will have a what do we got, an inch and a half reach advantage, so maybe he can use that to his advantage. One thing to watch out for, he did miss weight in his last fight, so maybe he's starting to have trouble with the weight cuts. So keep an eye on that. If you're on Rob Font, and he's taking on Adrian Yanez. He is 29 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. He is 16-3 and 5-0 in the UFC. And Yanez has looked great. He's on a roll right now. Great boxing, good power. He'll definitely have the power advantage here. Throws really hard leg kicks. He hasn't fought a whole ton of best, competition like Rob has, but he's won in dominant fashion. He has really good defense. He counters well. He throws really hard body shots. Something I think he could use in this spot. I think that would benefit him well in this spot. Got real fast combinations. Hits he hits hard. Every punch he landed was hurting Tony Kelly in that fight in his last fight out, and it was really cool watching him win by KO at home. With the whole crowd screaming for him. And I'm picking Yanez here. I think he's going to win the more meaningful shots and do more damage. I'm going to take him to win by decision just because, if Vera could do that to Rob and not put him away, then maybe Yanez can't either. But I'm rooting for Yanez for sure, and hope he gets a knockout. But I'm going to pick him to win by decision. Next up, we got Gilbert Burns taking on Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns is, excuse me a second, grab some water. Gilbert Burns is 36 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. He's 21-5 and 14-5 in the UFC. And Gilbert's a man right now. I don't care what anybody says. I thought the Chimaev fight could have gone his way. It was way closer than anybody thought it would be. He's an amazing grappler. He's got real good jiu-jitsu. He hits like a truck. He's got a really big left hand. He hurts guys. He hurts guys with that shot. He He rocked Chimaev a bunch of times in that fight, and his last time out, excuse me, his last time out, he destroyed Neil Magny. Like he made Neil look like he didn't even belong. He'll be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage here. Something he's probably used to. He's kind of a shorter guy for the division too. Um, he's looked in the best shape of his life recently. He uses his jab well. He doubles it up. He'll get the body lock and just straight lift guys and put them down with ease. He took no damage in his last fight, so he's got super good shoulder pressure. From the top position, he keeps guys down very well. If he gets you down, you're in trouble for sure. And I really enjoy. I'm a big Gilbert fan now. At first, I wasn't very high on him, but seeing his last little run he's been on, where he beat Tyron Woodley, and of course he lost to Kamaru Usman, but Kamaru Usman was the man, right? At that time, beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's been on a good run, man. I don't care what anybody says. I think this guy's really good, and he definitely deserves to be in the top of the division. He's going to be taking on Jorge Masvidal. He is 38 years old. I didn't realize he was older than Gilbert now. Uh, Guess I always thought he was younger. 38 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. He's 35-16, and he's 12-9 in the UFC. And I'll be honest, I've never really been that big of a Masvidal fan. I never really understood how he really even, got the title shot. With I guess he had a couple good wins, but I think it was mostly that flying knee KO that he got that really pushed him to the top of the division. He's a really good striker. He's powerful. It's the thing that I'm looking at. He hasn't won a fight since 2019. But he has been fighting at the top of the division, and he's got pretty good takedown defense. Kamaru, I don't think Kamaru got him down very much in their fight, but I think Colby did. He's well rounded, but I just haven't liked what I've seen out of him in his last three fights, and I definitely got to go with Burns. I hope Burns knocks him out. I think Burns is the better grappler and has better submissions, but Masvidal hasn't been submitted in the UFC, so I'm going to say Burns wins by decision. If Kamzat can't take out Burns, I don't think Masvidal can either. Um, I think Gilbert can pressure him up against the cage and try to get the takedowns. And if he gets the takedowns, Jorge's in trouble. And I think he'll wear on Jorge and tire him out with the grappling and the pressure and maybe beat up on him late. But I expect Gilbert to use his grappling to win this fight. And next up, we got the main event. Alex Pereira taking on Israel Adesanya 2 or 4, however you want to look at it. So Alex Pereira is 35 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach. He's 7-1 and 4-0 in the UFC. And that's crazy. 4-0 and he's a champion. And overall he's only 7-1 and he's a champion. So, but he's deserving of it. So yeah, Alex is a great striker. He's got the power advantage here, I think. And if you go back and watch a lot of his kickboxing fights, he's really good. He's an amazing striker. And this is tough, man, because I think Alex is going to come in being more confident than ever. He's got another win over Adesanya. He's going to be even better than we've seen him. His takedown defense will be better, stuff like that. But this is a lot like the Edwards and Usman 3 fight. You know, everybody thought Leon got the lucky knockout, and and then the next fight played out pretty closely, and Edwards was able to get the win. So you just never know if that's going to happen again here. Because Izzy was winning that fight. Izzy is 33 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Their reach is exactly the same. Um, he's 23-2 and 12-2 in the UFC. And I used to be, I guess I kind of flip flop back and forth on Adesanya because I was really high on him and a big fan of his when he first came in, up to his title win, and then he started putting on those boring fights where he was just kind of staying to the outside and leg kicking guys, and it was just wasn't a very exciting fight. So I guess I kind of got burnt out on him and became less of a fan. And but in the last fight, he really came out there and was putting it on, Pereira, in the beginning of the fight, and I do respect him a lot, and he's definitely earned his title, and he defended it. He's an amazing striker as well. He was winning the last fight. He was able to get some takedowns. He landed the volume. He rocked Alex a few times. I had money on Alex, and I thought all was lost. Um, like I said, I know Alex is going to come in more confident than ever. Um, really struggling with the pick on this one because it's hard for me to turn down Alex Pereira with plus money. You know, um, I haven't really totally decided on. Let me look at the line again real quick. See what they're at right now. So Alex Pereira is a plus 120, and you get a pretty good price on Izzy as well. So I kind of want to go with Alex Pereira again. He did me good the first time, but man, it's a hard one for me. I've been struggling with this one for 2 weeks. Still haven't really been able to make a decision on it. Uh, I'm gonna pick Izzy, man. I'm gonna pick him to get his title back. See if he. I bet he comes out and uses the takedowns again too, and gets a couple rounds. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Pereira wins. Um, I'm gonna pick Izzy to get the win. I think he's gonna come out aggressive and really try to get his belt back, try to get the knockout. He hurt Pereira in the first round of their first fight, so I'm gonna pick him to get the win. But like I've been known to do, I might put like $100 on Pereira just because it's plus money, even though I picked Adesanya to win. But so that's all my picks for this card. And as far as bets go, uh, so one, I got a big play on Ignacio Bahamondes. Well, not a big play, a 2 unit play, and I got him at a. What did I get him at? Check. I got him pretty early on, like a minus 210 is what it was. The 2 unit play on him. Then I have a play on Chris Curtis, 1 unit at a minus 115. So it's pretty close to a pick 'em on that one. Um, got a play on Adrian Yanez, 2 units on him. And I had a 2-man parlay. Let me find it. Oh, I got a 2-man parlay with nuerdanbieke and Gilbert Burns. And I caught it pretty early on. The lines are pretty high on them now, but I got it down to a minus 118 on the parlay. So I got a unit on that one as well, and that's as far as right now. That's all I got. I've been considering some other spots. For some reason, I'm really considering a play on Barnett because he's an underdog. But keep in mind though, I did hear some things about this Bahamondes fight that it was going to go away. So I don't know, but it's popped back up, so maybe it will go through and maybe they'll compete. Um, Also, kind of considering something on Kevin Holland, maybe Kevin Holland by knockout, or let me see what the line is on that real quick. Kevin Holland. Oh, they don't have it up yet on this website. I have to go check my other books, but yeah, man, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the support. Getting up to close to 130 subscribers. Please like and subscribe. And I'm available on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, Pandora, iTunes, all that stuff. And as always, don't forget to check out Chris Lytle's podcast, Lights Out Podcast. I don't get paid to do this. I just like the show and I want other people to like it too. And don't forget to check out the interview I did with him. It's on my channel. It's pretty interesting. He's a legend. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to hearing from some of you guys in the comments and stuff. And if you want to find my Instagram, it's highkick_fight picks. You can see all my picks on there and all my bets on there. And if I add any bets after my video, they will be on there, and you'll be able to see them on there. Um, but yeah, that's it for me, guys. I appreciate y'all, man. Thank you. Have a good one.